The market was noisy as always, traders shouting prices, children running around, and the smell of roasted corn filling the air. Amara moved quickly between her pots, serving steaming rice and beans to customers. Her stall was small, made of wood and tin, but people loved her food because she always served it with a smile. She didn't have much in life, yet her kindness made her stand out in the crowd. Every morning before she started work, she looked across the street. There, under a mango tree, sat an old crippled man. His legs were weak and his clothes were torn. Many people walked past him as if he was invisible. Some even laughed or crossed to the other side of the road. But not Amara. The first time she saw him, her heart ached. She noticed how he sat quietly, never begging loudly, just watching the world go by. That day she decided to bring him food. She placed a plate of rice and beans beside him and said softly, "Here, sir. Please eat." The old man lifted his head slowly. His face was tired, but his eyes were gentle. "You have a good heart, my daughter. May goodness never leave your path," he said in a shaky voice. Amara smiled kindly. "It's nothing, Baba. Everyone deserves to eat." From that day it became her routine. Each afternoon she saved a portion of her food for him. Even when her stall made little money, she never forgot. She told her friend Tola, "When I give him food, I feel peace in my heart. That is enough reward." Tola laughed and said, "You are too soft, Amara. This world doesn't thank kind people." But Amara only smiled. "Still, I will do what is right." One hot afternoon, Amara carried her food across the street again. Baba Kunnal, that was his name, sat in the same spot, staring at the passing cars. She placed the plate before him. "Baba, you didn't eat yesterday. Were you sick?" He nodded slowly. "The rain caught me. But I am fine now. Your food gives me strength." As he ate, Amara sat beside him. For a while they didn't speak. She watched people rush by, rich men in cars, traders arguing, children laughing. The world moved fast, but here, under this tree, everything was calm. "Tell me something, Baba," she said after a while. "Why do you sit here every day? Don't you have family?" The old man smiled faintly. "Family?" he repeated, his voice low. "Once I had everything, a big house, cars, people around me. But when I lost my health, I lost them too. That's how life teaches us who truly cares." Amara listened quietly. She didn't know what to say, but she felt his pain. "I'm sorry, Baba," she whispered. He waved his hand gently. "Don't be sorry, my child. Meeting you has made my days brighter." Amara looked at him curiously. His words sounded deep, almost like he was hiding something. There was something noble in the way he spoke, even in his tattered clothes. She wondered who he really was. That evening, after closing her stall, she returned home to her small room. Her mother had passed away years ago, and her younger brother lived in another city. She was alone, but she never complained. Life was hard, yes, but she always found reasons to smile. As she lay down on her mat, she thought about Baba Kunnal. Something about him stayed in her mind, the way he thanked her, the wisdom in his words, and his quiet dignity. He wasn't like other beggars. It was as if he carried a story too big for the streets. The next morning she woke up early and cooked again. The market was already waking, the air full of smoke and laughter. When she brought food to Baba Kunnal, she saw him struggling to stand, his crutches shaking in his hands. She rushed to help. "Please don't strain yourself," she said, holding his arm. He smiled softly. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Who?" she asked. "My daughter," he whispered. "She used to bring me food when she was little. But I haven't seen her in years." Amara's heart softened even more. She sat beside him again, quietly listening as he talked about his past, how he once had workers, land, and respect. But one business mistake changed everything. People abandoned him and he ended up on the streets. As he spoke, Amara's eyes filled with tears. "People can be cruel," she said softly. "Yes," he said, nodding. "But people like you remind me that kindness still exists." Later that day, as she packed up her stall, she heard some traders talking nearby. "That old cripple? I heard he used to be rich," one said. "Rich? Look at him now," another laughed. "He's just a beggar." Amara frowned. She didn't like how they mocked him. "You don't know his story," she said quietly. "Don't judge what you don't understand." The traders laughed at her, but she ignored them. Her heart was stronger than their words. That night, as she walked home under the moonlight, she whispered to herself, "If I can make one person's life better, that's enough for me." But somewhere in the shadows, a man in a black car watched her quietly. Baba Kunnal was not what he seemed. He wasn't just a poor cripple. There was more behind those tired eyes. something that even Amara's kind heart could not yet imagine. He watched her disappear into the night, then looked up at the sky. "She doesn't know who I really am," he said softly. "But soon she will." And as the city lights flickered in the distance, destiny began to move, slowly, silently, preparing a surprise that would change Amara's world forever. The rain clouds gathered slowly above Ibadan that evening, turning the sky gray. The wind blew through the market, lifting dust and papers into the air. Traders began packing up their goods, shouting over one another as thunder rolled in the distance. Amara wiped her hands on her apron, tired but content after a long day of selling rice and beans. Her small food stall was nearly empty, but her heart was full. She had saved a portion for Baba Kunnal as she always did. Titi, her closest friend, stood beside her, helping her close up the stall. "You're going again, aren't you?" she asked, rolling her eyes playfully. Amara smiled. "Yes, Baba Kunnal hasn't eaten all day. He must be hungry." Titi crossed her arms. Amara, that old beggar again? You work from morning till night and instead of saving your food you give it away. He can't even thank you properly. Why do you bother?" Amara turned to her with a gentle smile. "Titi, kindness is not about reward. It's about doing what's right. If I can make his evening a little better, that's enough for me." Titi sighed, shaking her head. "You're too good for this world. People take advantage of hearts like yours." "Maybe," Amara said quietly, "but I'd rather have a soft heart than an empty one." The two friends said goodbye, and Amara carried the food carefully through the market. The streets were already wet from light rain, and people hurried home, covering their heads with baskets and wrappers. When she reached the corner where Baba Kunnal usually sat, she found him curled up under the mango tree, his hands trembling from the cold. "Baba," she called softly. He looked up weakly, his eyes tired but still kind. "Ah, my daughter. You came again." Amara knelt beside him and handed him the warm food. "Here, Baba. Eat before it gets cold." He smiled faintly. "You should be home, my child. The rain is coming." She laughed softly. "The rain can wait. You need to eat first." As he began to eat, the first drops of heavy rain began to fall. Amara looked around, everyone had run for shelter. But Baba Kunnal had nowhere to go. His old mat was soaked already, and his clothes were too thin to keep him warm. Without thinking twice, Amara stood and untied her wrapper. She spread it over his shoulders like a blanket. "Here, Baba. Stay warm. I'll bring you soup tomorrow." The old man's eyes widened. "No, no, my daughter, you'll get cold." She smiled softly. "I'll be fine, Baba. You need it more than I do." She turned to go, rain splashing against her bare feet as lightning lit the sky. The wind caught her hair, but she didn't stop. She walked home through the storm, her heart light even though her clothes were drenched. Baba Kunnal sat silently, watching her disappear down the street. Water poured over him, but he didn't feel the cold. Instead, warmth filled his heart. He whispered into the wind, "This girl's heart is purer than gold. She will be rewarded, in ways she cannot imagine." The next morning, the sun rose over a cleaner, calmer Ibadan. The rain had washed the dust away. Amara arrived early at the market, smiling as she set up her stall. But when she looked across the street, Baba Kunnal wasn't there. Maybe he's still resting, she thought. She sold food all morning, but her mind kept drifting back to the mango tree. When the afternoon came and he still hadn't shown up, worry began to creep into her chest. "What if he's sick?" she whispered. Without wasting time, she left her stall with Titi and hurried through the streets, checking every corner she could think of. Finally, she found him near the old mosque, leaning against a wall, his eyes closed. "Baba," she cried, kneeling beside him. He opened his eyes slowly and smiled faintly. My daughter. You found me. Why are you here? You didn't eat today." He laughed softly, his voice weak. "I am old, Amara. Sometimes my body refuses to move. But seeing your face brings me strength again." She helped him sit properly and gave him a small bowl of food she had carried with her. "You must take care of yourself," she said firmly. "You are not alone, Baba. As long as I am here, you will eat." He looked at her with eyes full of gratitude. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he said quietly. "A woman who believed in goodness even when the world was cruel." "Was she your wife?" Amara asked curiously. He smiled softly. "Yes, she was. And you have her heart." Amara blushed, unsure how to respond. She looked down and said, "Then I will take that as a blessing." That evening, as she walked home, Titi joined her again. "You went to him, didn't you?" "Yes," Amara replied. He was sick, but I think he'll be fine now. Titi shook her head. I don't know what you see in that man. But one day, I hope someone is kind to you the way you are kind to others. Amara smiled. Maybe that day will come. Maybe not. But kindness doesn't need to return, it just needs to continue. Far behind them, Baba Kunal watched her disappear into the busy streets. He leaned back, a faint smile on his face. The people around him still saw only a crippled beggar, but inside he was something else. Someone powerful, someone with means, someone testing the world quietly. He looked at the wrapper she had given him, still wrapped around his shoulders. He touched it gently and whispered, "Soon, my daughter. Soon you'll know who I really am." That night he called someone on a small hidden phone. "Find out everything about a woman named Amara," he said in a calm, deep voice. "She sells food at the market near the mosque." The voice on the other end replied, "Yes, sir. Right away." Baba Kunal, the beggar everyone ignored, leaned back and smiled. Let's see if the world still has space for true hearts. The wind blew softly through the night as the city lights flickered in the distance. Somewhere in the dark, fate began to weave its plan, one act of kindness at a time. The next morning the market was alive with noise and laughter, but something felt different to Amara. The mango tree across the road, the one where Baba Kunal always sat, was empty. His mat was gone. His small tin cup was missing. Amara frowned and looked around. Maybe he went to find food somewhere else, she thought. But as the day passed she kept glancing at that empty spot. By evening her heart grew uneasy. The next day Baba Kunal was still nowhere to be found. Amara carried some food with her, hoping he might appear. But the space under the tree remained quiet. She began to ask people around. "Have you seen the old man who sits here?" A pepper seller nearby shook her head. "No, I haven't seen him since yesterday." An Okada rider added, "Maybe he went to another street. Or maybe he traveled. Who knows?" But Amara couldn't believe that. "He never goes far," she said softly. "He can hardly walk." Days passed, then a week. Baba Kunal didn't return. The city moved on as if he had never existed, but Amara couldn't stop thinking about him. She prayed for him every night, asking God to keep him safe. Titi noticed her sadness. "You're still thinking about that old man, aren't you?" she asked one morning as they arranged food on the stall. Amara nodded. "He was kind to me. Even when he had nothing, he always blessed me. I miss seeing him." Titi sighed. "Amara, sometimes people just disappear. It's life. Maybe it's time to let go." Amara smiled faintly but said nothing. Deep down she refused to let go. One hot afternoon, when the sun was high and the market smelled of roasted corn and fried fish, Amara was serving food to customers. Suddenly, a sleek black car rolled to a stop near her stall. The noise of the market quieted for a moment. Cars like that didn't usually come here. Two men stepped out, both wearing neat black suits and dark glasses. They looked out of place among the dust and chatter of the market. One of them approached Amara. "Good afternoon," he said politely. "Are you Miss Amara?" She blinked, unsure. "Yes, I'm Amara. Is something wrong?" The man smiled slightly. "Our master wishes to see you." Amara's heart skipped a beat. "Your master? Who is that?" "You will know soon," he replied. "Please come with us." Titi quickly came forward, frowning. "Hey, what's going on here? Why are you taking her?" The man turned to her calmly. "Don't worry, madam. It's not trouble. Our master simply wants to thank her." Amara hesitated. "Thank me? For what?" The man only gestured to the car. "Please, miss. It won't take long." Amara looked at Titi nervously. Her friend whispered, "Are you sure you should go?" Amara took a deep breath. "If I don't, I'll never know who sent them." She quickly wiped her hands, untied her apron, and followed the men to the car. As the door closed behind her, she looked out the window at her small stall, her pots, her bowls, her friends standing there worried. Her heart beat fast as the car began to move. They drove for a long time, past busy streets and crowded shops, then up a quiet hill lined with tall trees. The houses grew bigger and more beautiful. Soon the car turned through a large black gate that opened slowly. Amara gasped. Before her stood a huge mansion with white walls, glass windows, and flowers everywhere. The air smelled of fresh grass and perfume. She had never seen anything like it. The man opened her door. "This way, please." Her legs felt weak as she stepped out. She followed them through the wide gate, up the marble steps, and into a bright hallway. Everything sparkled, golden frames, white tiles, soft carpets under her feet. A woman dressed in a neat uniform greeted her and bowed. "Welcome, madam. Please, this way." Amara almost laughed from shock. Madam? No one had ever called her that. She followed quietly until they reached a large sitting room. In the center was a man sitting in a fine chair, dressed in a cream-colored igbata, a gold wristwatch shining on his hand. His beard was neatly trimmed and he smiled when he saw her. Amara froze. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Baba Kunnel. But not the Baba Kunnel she knew, not the one in torn clothes and dusty slippers. This man looked strong, rich, and confident. Her voice trembled. Be Baba? He stood slowly, his smile kind but steady. Amara, my daughter, he said warmly. I see you finally found me. Amara's mouth fell open. I don't understand. Oh, you were a beggar? He finished softly, walking toward her. Yes, that's what everyone saw. Everyone except you. Tears filled her eyes. You were never poor? He shook his head. No, my dear. I only wanted to know what kindness still looks like in this world. Too many people pass the poor without seeing them. But you saw me. Amara couldn't speak. Her hands trembled as she stared at him. He smiled gently. You gave me food when you had little. You shared your wrapper when you were cold. You showed me the kind of heart I thought no longer existed. He clapped his hands and a maid brought a tray filled with envelopes and jewelry boxes. These are small gifts, he said. But more than that, I want you to manage one of my food companies. You have a good heart and I want the world to see it. Amara stepped back, shaking her head. Baba, I can't accept this. I didn't help you for a reward. He raised his hand gently. I know. That's why you deserve it. Her tears finally fell. She bowed her head, whispering, Thank you, Baba Kunnel, or should I say, sir? He laughed softly. No, call me Baba. That name sounds better when you say it. Amara smiled through her tears. You tricked me well. He chuckled. I only tested your heart. And you passed with flying colors. Just then Titi burst into the mansion, panting and wide-eyed. Amara, are you okay? What's going on? She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Baba Kunnel sitting there like royalty. Wait, that's the beggar? Baba Kunnel laughed. Yes, my dear. The same one you thought was useless. Titi's face turned red. I don't even know what to say. Amara laughed softly, wiping her eyes. I told you, Titi, kindness is never wasted. Baba Kunnel smiled proudly. And that is a lesson everyone must learn. The golden light from the wide windows fell across the room as Amara sat down, her heart still racing. Her life had changed in one afternoon, all because she had chosen kindness when no one was watching. Outside, the city buzzed with life, unaware that one simple act of compassion had opened the door to destiny. Amara stood frozen, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The air in the grand room felt thick and heavy, filled with questions she couldn't ask fast enough. She stared at the man before her, the same man she had once seen sitting by the roadside in torn clothes, now dressed in fine igbata, his smile calm and warm. Baba Kunnel, she whispered, her voice shaking. What is happening? The man chuckled softly, a deep, comforting sound that filled the room. My child, he said kindly, my real name is Chief Kunnel Adewale. Amara blinked in disbelief. The name sounded familiar. She had heard people in the market mention a wealthy businessman who owned several companies. But it couldn't be the same person. Chief Kunnel Adewale, she repeated quietly. You mean, you're that man? He nodded. Yes, Amara. I am. Her lips parted, but no words came out. But you were a beggar, she finally said. You sat by the roadside every day wearing old clothes. You. He raised his hand gently to stop her. Yes, my dear. I was there, but not because I was truly poor. Amara's brows furrowed. Then why? Chief Kunnel sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. 2 years ago I had a terrible accident. My car crashed while I was on a business trip. I survived, but I lost my memory. For months I wandered without knowing who I was. I lived like a beggar not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. Then one day I started remembering pieces of my past. Slowly my people found me. They took me home. I had everything again, my wealth, my home, my name. He paused, looking at her with soft eyes. But something inside me had changed. When I was poor, I saw how people treated me, how they looked away, how they refused to share even a little food. Except you. Amara's throat tightened. Her eyes filled with tears. He smiled faintly. You came to me every day even when you had little for yourself. You didn't ask my name or expect anything in return. You just helped. Amara's voice broke as she said, I didn't help you because of who you were, Baba. I just wanted to do good. It didn't matter if you were rich or poor. Chief Cunnel nodded slowly. And that is exactly why I called you here. This world is full of people chasing wealth but forgetting kindness. You reminded me what matters most. He turned slightly, signaling one of his aides, who brought forward a small folder. Amara, he said, his tone both firm and gentle, I have built many restaurants and food businesses across Nigeria. But I've learned that no business can succeed without heart. And you, my dear, have the kind of heart this world needs. Amara blinked rapidly, confused. Sir, I don't understand. He smiled and opened the folder, showing her some papers. I want you to manage one of my restaurants in Ibadan. It will be yours to run. You will feed people, employ others, and build something beautiful, just like you fed me with love and compassion. Amara gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Me? Manage a restaurant? Yes, he said softly, his eyes twinkling. You gave me food when I had none. Now it's my turn to feed your dreams. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Baba Cunnel. I don't know what to say. I'm not educated like those big city women. I only know how to cook simple meals for market people. Chief Cunnel chuckled. That's all you need to know. People don't come back to eat because of big names, they come back because of love. And that you already have. Amara covered her face for a moment, trying to hold back her tears. She had spent years struggling just to survive, and now someone wanted to trust her with something so big. You believe I can do this? She asked quietly. He nodded firmly. I know you can. You have already proven it. Every day you managed your small stall with honesty and care. You never cheated anyone. You always smiled even when life was hard. That's what true leadership looks like. Amara took a shaky breath. But what about my stall in the market? My customers? Chief Cunnel smiled. You can still cook for them. The restaurant will have your name, Amara's Kitchen. The same meals you made for me will be served there. We will build it near the market where everyone knows you. You will train others, share your kindness, and make it a place where people feel at home. She stared at him, her heart swelling with disbelief and gratitude. I don't know how to thank you, Baba. He reached out and took her hand gently. You already have, my child. The first time you gave me food, you thanked me. The day you covered me with your wrapper in the rain, you thanked me again. Now it's my turn. Amara's tears fell freely as she whispered, God bless you, Baba Cunnel. He smiled. He already has, through you. For a long moment, the room was quiet. The golden light from the window touched Amara's face, making her look like hope itself. She wiped her eyes and smiled shyly. I'll do my best. I won't disappoint you. Chief Cunnel nodded with pride. I know you won't. Just then, one of his workers entered carrying a small envelope. Sir, everything is ready, he said. Chief Cunnel turned back to Amara. Inside this envelope is the first salary for your new job. Use it to prepare yourself. Tomorrow, my driver will pick you up for training at the restaurant. You start immediately. Amara held the envelope carefully as if it were treasure. Thank you, sir. I don't deserve all this. He smiled again. You deserve much more. You just didn't know it yet. When she stood to leave, she turned to him one last time. Baba Cunnel? Yes, my dear? Even with all your riches, promise me something. He raised an eyebrow playfully. What is it? Don't ever stop being kind, she said softly. Because kindness is what keeps us human. Chief Cunnel's smile widened. I promise, Amara. And I will make sure the world learns that lesson through you. As Amara walked out of the mansion, the sun shone brightly over the hill. Her heart was light, her steps slow but steady. The girl who once fed a beggar now had a new purpose, to feed others with love, dignity, and hope. For the first time in her life, she felt that maybe goodness truly does return to those who give it freely. Months later, the sun rose gently over the busy streets of Ibadan, filling the air with warmth and laughter. People gathered in front of a new building painted in soft yellow and white. A large sign above the entrance read, Amara's Place. The smell of freshly cooked food drifted through the air, jollof rice, fried plantain, and pepper soup, filling the crowd with excitement. Amara stood at the entrance, her hands shaking slightly as she looked at the people waiting outside. She wore a simple blue gown and tied a white scarf around her head. It wasn't fancy, but her smile shone brighter than any jewel. She could hardly believe what was happening. Her dream had come true. Chief Cunnel sat beside her on a small stage, looking proud and peaceful. He was no longer the man who once sat by the roadside. His health had fully returned, and so had his joy. He looked at Amara as though she were his own daughter. The master of ceremonies raised his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand opening of Amara's Place, a restaurant that began not with money but with kindness. The crowd clapped loudly. Some people from the old market were there too. Titi, Amara's best friend, waved from the front row. She had tears in her eyes. When the noise settled, Amara stepped forward. Her voice trembled at first, but she spoke with honesty. "Good afternoon, everyone. I thank you all for coming. This place, this dream, started with just a small act. It began with one plate of rice and a heart that cared." She looked at Chief Cunnel, smiling warmly. "There was a time when I didn't know where my next meal would come from. But I believed in doing good no matter how small. I never imagined that giving food to a stranger would change my whole life." Chief Cunnel smiled and nodded, his eyes soft. "That's right," he said when it was his turn to speak. "True wealth is not in what we have but in what we give." Amara gave when she had little. Today that same kindness has returned to her 100 times over. The people clapped again and some wiped tears from their eyes. After the speeches, Amara cut the ribbon. The crowd cheered as the doors opened. Inside, the restaurant was beautiful but simple. The tables were neatly arranged, decorated with small clay pots filled with flowers. On one wall hung a framed photo of Amara serving food at her old market stall, a reminder of where she began. She walked around greeting people with joy, her heart full. The cooks worked happily in the kitchen, serving steaming plates of rice, beans, and stew. Laughter and music filled the air. Later in the afternoon, when the guests had eaten and the crowd began to leave, Amara stepped outside to take a quiet breath. The sky glowed orange with the setting sun. She looked across the road and saw a young boy sitting alone, his clothes torn, his hands trembling. Without a word, she packed a plate of food from the kitchen and walked to him. "Here," she said softly, "eat, my child." The boy looked up, surprised. "Are you sure, Ma?" She smiled. "Of course. Everyone deserves to eat." He took the food with both hands and began to eat quickly, his eyes shining with gratitude. Amara watched quietly, remembering how everything had started the same way, with a simple act of kindness and a hungry soul. When she turned back toward the restaurant, Chief Cunnel was standing there, watching her. He smiled proudly. "You haven't changed, my dear. Still the same heart." Amara laughed gently. "How could I change, Baba? Kindness doesn't grow old." He nodded. "That's why this place will never fail. You built it on love, not greed. That kind of foundation never breaks." As night fell, soft lights glowed from the windows of Amara's place. People passing by could smell the delicious food and hear gentle music coming from inside. Some stopped to eat, others just smiled at the warmth of the place. Every evening, Amara made sure that no leftover food went to waste. She would pack it carefully and send it to the hungry, the beggars by the road, the children without parents, the old women who sat by the church gates. She never forgot what hunger felt like, and she never forgot Baba Cunnel's words, "Kindness always finds its way home." Sometimes, after closing the restaurant, she would sit by the window and watch the stars. She often thought about how one small act had led her here, how feeding a crippled man had changed her story forever. She had not done it for reward, but kindness had rewarded her anyway. Chief Cunnel visited often. He would sit in his favorite chair near the window and enjoy his meal while watching the people laugh and eat. Whenever anyone asked him why he had chosen Amara, he would smile and say, "Because she fed me when I was nobody." That kind of heart deserves to shine. One evening, a group of journalists came to interview Amara. They asked her how she became so successful. She laughed softly and said, "It started with rice and beans, and love. You don't need to be rich to change a life. Sometimes you just need to care." Her story spread across towns and cities. People came from far away to eat at Amara's place. But what made the restaurant special wasn't just the food, it was the warmth. Customers were treated like family. Everyone was welcome, rich or poor. Years passed, but Amara never changed. She still woke up early, greeted her workers kindly, and cooked with her own hands. She made sure every meal had the same taste of care that once fed a lonely beggar. Whenever she saw someone struggling, she remembered her own journey and whispered softly, "Kindness never hides, it always finds its way home." Chief Cunnel, now older and slower, would sometimes sit beside her in the evenings. Together they watched children playing outside and listened to the laughter echoing through the street. "You see, my child," he would say quietly, "you didn't just build a restaurant. You built a home for kindness." And Amara would smile, her heart full of peace. "Yes, Baba," she would reply, and it all began with a single plate of rice. As the stars sparkled above and the night breeze carried the smell of food and laughter through the streets, Amara looked up and whispered, "Thank you, God, for turning small acts into great blessings." And in the glow of Amara's place, it was clear, kindness had truly found its way home.